Well, hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are joining from. I want to thank you all for joining the Engagement Architecture webinar series. We're going to give it another minute for people to continue to hop on. But if you've been with us for episodes 1 and 2, welcome back. You're about to see why those 2 episodes matter. But if this is your first time joining the series, don't worry. I'm going to get you guys caught up here shortly and quickly. But if you'd like to go back and watch the first 2 episodes, you can visit our website at www.engagementarchitecture.com. You can find webinars in the menu, and there you'll be able to find links to all of the episodes as well as registration links for all future episodes. Now, while you're there, don't be afraid to navigate through the site. There are a lot of amazing tools and information about the book, and you can also register for early access. And there'll be a link to purchase the book when it finally comes out on August 30th. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. There we go. And I want to thank you all for joining and welcome to episode 3 of the Engagement Architecture webinar series. This is called The 5 Pillars. Now, quick context, this is a free 5-part series based on a book I've written. Each episode stands on its own, but they do build on each other. Episode 1 was the diagnosis. Stop blaming the workforce. Episode 2 was the science. Performance is behavior. And today is the blueprint, the 5 specific design variables that or stability. Now, coming up, episode 4 is engineering the ramp, the tactical implementation. And finally, the 5th and final episode is building the reinforcement economy. This is the business case and the measurement framework. 1 a month. Registration link for episode 4 is at the end or in the chat. The executive summary of the book is free. The QR code is on the screen, but we'll be sure to add a link in the chat there as well. Okay, let's keep moving. Quick review of where we are in the arc. Again, I said early, episode 1, we provided that early attrition is a design problem, not a people problem. The system is the variable that stayed constant when you changed everything else. Episode 2, we explained why. Performance is behavior. Behavior follows consequences. And your system is producing exactly what it's designed to produce, whether you designed it intentionally or not. We introduced the ABC model, the 4 consequence types, and showed that most floors run on extinction and negative reinforcement, while positive reinforcement comes in dead last. Now, if you ran the audits from episodes 1 and 2, the corrective to reinforcing ratio, and the 4 consequences categories, as well as the timing comparison, you're about to understand exactly what your data is telling you. Episode 1 was the X-ray. 2 was the biology. Get ready for number 3. This is the blueprint. So let me set the stage here. Here's what the next 30 to 40 minutes look like for you. I'm going to give you 5 design variables, the 5 pillars of the engagement architecture. For each one, you're going to get a definition. You're going to get an analogy to make it concrete. You're going to get a diagnostic question. And then I'm also going to tell you what good looks like. Then I'll show you how the 5 interact, because they're a system, not a checklist. And finally, I'll give you a scorecard, the pillar scorecard, that lets you rate your operation on each pillar and identify exactly where to start. Let's go. One episode of diagnosis, 1 episode of science, and now we build. So if behavior follows consequence and consequences can be designed, the question becomes, what exactly do you design? What are the specific variables? That's what this episode answers. I want you to think of your reinforcement environment as a mixing board in a recording studio. 5 dials. Each one controls a different dimension of the signal your system sends to new hires. Now, when the dials are calibrated, the mix is clean. People hear the signal. They respond. they stay. When one is off, the whole mix distorts. Now, on most floors, 2 or 3 of these dials are turned all the way down. These aren't 5 separate programs you need to launch. They're 5 dimensions of the same system you're already running. You're already producing all 5 in one form or another. You're just not designing any of them intentionally. Now, these 5 emerge from 2 sources. The OBM the research literature that I've read and researched over the past several years, and 20 years of experience myself watching what actually changes the curve on real floors. I tested a lot of variables. These are the ones that move the needle. Everything else is a derivative of one of these 5. So let's walk you through each one. Pillar number 1 is reinforcement density. How frequently productive effort produces meaningful signal. Now, by signal, I mean consequence or reinforcement, not just to your top performers, but across the entire workforce, but especially during early tenure. Here's the problem this solves. The first 30 days on most floors are a reinforcement desert. New hires are below target on almost every metric. The dashboard says or indicates below target every single day. The only signal that arrives with any frequency is usually corrective. Positive reinforcement is rare because the system only recognizes outcomes, and new hires haven't produced outcomes yet. Now think about someone who just started going to the gym. First week, they can barely finish a set. And if the only feedback they got was, you're below the average lifter, they'd probably quit. But their app tracks every workout. It shows them that their weight went up by 5 pounds this week. Their streak is building. The progress is small, but visible. The reinforcement is dense. It arrives every session. That density is what keeps them coming back. And eventually, they build the strength to lift the heavier weights and begin to see visible progress in the mirror that compounds the results. Your new hires don't have a gym app. Most have a dashboard that indicates that they're below target for weeks on end. Now, here's the diagnostic question. How often does a new hire in their first 30 days receive a credible signal or feedback that they are getting better? And here's what good looks like. Daily or same shift recognition of specific improvements. Progress metrics that track trajectory, not just their position. A system that finds something to reinforce before the new hire has achieved anything that you or the business currently defines as meaningful, because improvement is the achievement in the first 30 days. Density is the first pillar because without it, none of the others matter. You cannot build on a foundation that is already gone. Pillar number 2, performance visibility. Translating performance data into a progression story the employee can see. Trajectory and mastery visible alongside of outcomes, not just for the manager, but for the person doing the work. Here's the problem. A new hire can be improving every single day. Better handle time, fewer errors, smoother calls. And the only thing the system shows them is that they're still below quota. The improvement is real, it's just invisible. So every software download you've ever done has a progress bar. Nobody would sit and wait if the screen just said not done yet. Now, if you did this for more than a few minutes, you'd probably just close the window. But a progress bar, even a slow one, changes everything. You can see it moving. You know something is happening, and you stay. So most contact center dashboards are showing your new hires not done yet, for weeks, if not months. No progress bar, no trajectory. Just a binary, you're below target or you're not. And then we're surprised when they close the window. So here's your diagnostic question. If a new hire improves their core behaviors by 20% this week, but still below quota, can they see that improvement anywhere in the system? So what looks good? This is what good looks like. Dashboards that show trajectory alongside a position. You were here Monday, you're here today. That's 15% in 3 days. The employee should be able to answer, am I getting better? By looking at their own data. Position tells you where you rank. Trajectory tells you whether you belong. New hires don't leave because they're behind. They leave because nothing in the system tells them that they're catching up. Pillar number 3, behavioral controllability. The employee's belief that effort reliably influences outcome, that the system responds to what they do, not to luck, politics, or whichever supervisor that they drew. The problem this solves is learned helplessness. When recognition feels random, when the rules change depending on who the supervisor is, when one person rewards what another ignores, employees actually stop trying. Not because they're lazy, because the system taught them that effort and outcome are disconnected. Here's the analogy. Every batter in baseball steps into the box with a strike zone. On paper, it's fixed. In practice, it depends on the umpire. Some call it tight, some call it wide, and every hitter in the league knows which is which before the first pitch. Now imagine you're a rookie and you can't tell which umpire you've got. Same swing, same pitch, called differently depending on the day. You stop swinging with conviction. You start guessing. And guessing is the fastest way to end a career. That's what recognition feels like on most floors. The rules exist, but the strike zone moves depending on which supervisor you drew. So here's a diagnostic question. Could a new hire on your floor explain in one sentence exactly what they need to do to earn recognition this week? Or does it depend on which supervisor they drew? What good looks like? Good is when you have criteria-based reinforcement, transparent rules. If I do X, Y happens. No ambiguity, a strike zone that doesn't move. Controllability isn't about being generous with recognition. It's about being predictable with it. An agent who knows exactly what earns recognition will chase it. An agent who doesn't will stop trying to earn it and start hoping to get lucky. So you can't build discretionary effort on hope. Pillar number 4, recognition velocity. How quickly meaningful signal arrives after the behavior. The emotional imprint of a win has a shelf life. So this is the pillar we set up back in episode 2 with the half-life of a win. Same recognition delivered at different times produces dramatically different effects. Most floors deliver corrective signal immediately or in hours, and reinforcing signal usually in weeks. Think about a kid learning how to ride a bike. The moment they stay upright for 3 seconds, someone cheers right then, while they're even still wobbling. Now that cheer is what makes them get back on. Now imagine the same parent waiting until Sunday dinner to say, nice job on Tuesday. It's the same praise. It does nothing. The moment it was attached to is already gone. Now, if you ran the timing exercise from episode 2, you already have this data. You already know how wide the gap is between how fast corrections arrive and how fast reinforcement arrives. And if you didn't run it, here's a shortcut. Think about the last time someone on your floor did something genuinely well. Now think about when they heard about it. That distance or that gap is your recognition velocity problem. Here's your diagnostic question. What is the average time between a real milestone and acknowledgement? Is it immediate, same shift, end of week, monthly meeting, or does it depend on the manager? This is what good looks like. Either immediate or same shift or same day recognition that is specifically tied to a behavior. Automated where possible, where the system surfaces the milestone and the supervisor confirms it. It's not dependent on one person's bandwidth. The signal is fast because the system is designed to make it fast. Recognition doesn't fail because leaders don't care. It fails because caring is slower than the moment requires. By the time the praise arrives, the person's already drawn their own conclusions about what that day meant to them. You're not competing with silence. You're competing with the story that they told themselves while they waited. Pillar number 5, probably one of the most important pillars, progressive architecture. So the intentional staging of all 4 pillars across the ramp curve. Higher density early, rising standards as competence develops. A week 1 hire and a 6-month veteran should not be inside the same system. Here's the problem. Most operations run a single reinforcement environment for everyone. Same dashboards, same targets, same recognition thresholds. A new hire on day 5 is measured against the same benchmarks as a veteran on month 8. The veteran can succeed in that system. The new hire cannot. Every well-designed video game does this intuitively. Level 1 is easy. The wins come fast. The reinforcement is dense. Progress is visible. And as the player builds skill, the difficulty increases, but always in proportion to their developing competence. The game will never put a level 1 player in a level 50 challenge. Your floor does exactly that. A day 5 hire walks into the same system as a month 8 veteran. Same targets, same expectations. That's a level 1 player in a level 50 challenge. And when they fail, which they will, the system says, you're below target. Not, keep going, you're learning and improving. So here's your diagnostic question. Does your system treat a new hire in week 1 the same way it treats a 6-month veteran? What does good look like? Staged ramp with calibrated thresholds. Training, nesting, and floor phases each have different metrics. Reinforcement density is the highest in the first 30 days. Standards rise gradually. The system meets the person where they are. Reward early and often to build their identity, an identity that tells them that they belong here. Progressive architecture is the pillar that makes the other 4 work. Density, visibility, controllability, and velocity all have to be dialed differently for someone in week 1 than for someone in month 8. Run them at veteran settings and a new hire never gets a signal. Run them at new hire settings forever and your veterans stop taking them seriously. The system doesn't need to be easier. It needs to be staged. Every organization already has a ramp. Most of them just haven't designed it. So these 5s don't operate in isolation. They're a system. And like any system, the weakest component limits the whole. Reinforcement density without recognition velocity. Signal arrives, but too late to connect. Performance visibility without behavioral controllability. They can see their score, but can't figure out how to change it. Recognition velocity without progressive architecture. Fast signal, but against standards the new hires can't hit. So think of it as a mixing board. 5 channels, all of them live. You can have 4 dialed in perfectly, but if one is sitting at 0, the mix is wrong. Not slightly off, wrong. And no amount of turning up the other 4 fixes it because the problem isn't volume. It's the channel nobody noticed was down. Your job isn't to perfect all 5 simultaneously. Your job is to find the channel that's at 0 and bring it up. So that's the good news in all of this. You don't have to rebuild your operation. Most floors are running 3 or 4 out of the 5 reasonably well and 1 or 2 at nothing. And for those are the ones that are producing the attrition curve you've been living with for years. If you find those, you start there. So for those who've been with us since the first episode, you guys know Emma. Now let me run through this lens with Emma one more time. Performance density near 0. The only frequent signal was corrective, a score of 1. Performance visibility, moderate. She could see her dashboard, but it only showed position, not trajectory. It said below target without showing her she was improving. Score of 2. Behavioral controllability, inconsistent. Recognition depended on her supervisor's schedule and attention. She couldn't predict what earned acknowledgement. Score 2. Recognition velocity, slow. Acknowledgement came weakly at best. Corrections, however, came immediately. Score of 1. Progressive architecture, absent. She was measured against the same target as veterans from day 1. Score of 1. 7 out of 25. Not one pillar functioning at even a moderate level. And here's what I want you to sit with. Nobody on that floor was doing anything wrong. Her supervisor was coaching. The dashboard was accurate. The targets were the same targets everyone else had. Every individual piece of the system was working exactly as designed. Now, Emma didn't leave because someone failed her. She left because the environment was never built to hold her in the first place. That's the whole argument in one number. And now you can see exactly where the fix starts. The weakest pillar is the one that's producing the attrition. Your job isn't to fix all 5 at once. It's to find the weakest one and fix it first. That's where you get the fastest return. So I want to give you something that you can use this week. This is called the Pillar Scorecard. You can rate your operation 1 through 5 on each pillar. A 1 means the pillar is essentially absent from your system. A 5 means it's intentionally designed and consistently executed. One rule before you start, though. Score the system as your newest hire experiences it, not as you designed it. Those are very different numbers. The second one is the one that you're proud of. The first one is the one producing your attrition. So let me calibrate this for you. Reinforcement density, a 1 means a new hire gets no positive signal in the first 30 days. A 5 means daily, or more specifically, same shift reinforcement of specific improvements. Performance visibility. A 1 means agents can't see their own progress. A 5 means real-time trajectory dashboards the agent can read themselves. Behavioral controllability. A 1 means recognition is random and manager dependent. A 5 means it's criteria-based, transparent, and predictable. Recognition velocity. A 1 means acknowledgement comes monthly or not at all. A 5 means same shift tied to specific behaviors. Progressive architecture. A 1 means new hires and veterans share the same system. A 5 means staged ramp with calibrated thresholds at each phase. Emma's floor scored a 7. If you're sitting above 15, you're in better shape than most operations I've walked into. If you're below 10, you already know why your first 60-day numbers look the way they do. Your lowest score is going to be where you want to start. Not your average, your lowest. Because the weakest pillar is the one dragging everything else down. If you ran the audits from episodes 1 and 2, the ratio, the consequence categories, the timing data, you already have the evidence to score accurately. If you didn't, this scorecard alone will tell you where the system is most broken. You don't need permission to run this. You don't need a budget. You need like 20 minutes and the willingness to write down a number you might not actually like. Be honest. From your new hires perspective, not your own. That's the whole cost of finding out what your system is actually producing. All right, we are 3 episodes in. You have the diagnosis. The system is broken. You have the science. Behavior follows consequences. And now you have the blueprint. 5 specific design variables you can audit, measure, and change. Episode 4 is where we really get tactical. Engineering the ramp, KPI architecture, milestone design, how you actually configure these 5 pillars into a working system on your floor. That's coming up next month. The registration link is going to be in the chat for episode 4. You can grab it before you drop off. So here's the assignment between now and then. Run the pillar scorecard this week while the conversation's still fresh. Share it with your leadership team and have them score it independently and then compare it. The gaps between how you scored it and how they scored it will tell you as much as the scores themselves. And then when you come back next month, you'll know which pillar is your weakest and we'll show you how to fix it. Now, before we open it up for questions, it's like every episode, we want to show you 3 ways that you can go deeper. Option number 1, register for early access of the engagement architecture, the complete framework. The book comes out August 30th, but if you want it sooner, register using the QR code on your screen and you'll get early access. Episode 2 is a QR code to download the executive summary. It's completely free. It's everything from this series in one focused document. And then finally, option 3, request a demo. 30 minutes. It's a diagnostic. It's not a pitch. We'll apply all 5 of the 5 pillars to your specific operation. So all 3 links are on your screen now. We'll make sure they're also available at the end in the chat, so that way you can go and register if you missed them here. Okay, let's go ahead and open it up. What resonated? What didn't land? And what question have you been sitting with during this webinar? We'll open it up. Let me see here. Olivia, if you can go ahead and read. I don't have it open on my screen, but if you can start reading the questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
We've got one question.
Sure.
Some of the teams we talk to are hybrid or spread across sites. Does the 5 pillars framework still hold up when everyone isn't in one building?
100%. Yeah, this works in any environment, in office, hybrid, full work from home. The 5 pillars don't necessarily require, if designed correctly. Now, I will say it's a little bit more difficult if you're doing it manually, because now you got to track people in every corner of the earth or wherever they are working from home. With a system design that you can automate, and again, this isn't a pitch for ZIZO, which is our performance management system that, again, is built off of the science and delivered through gamification. But a system like that helps automate it, making it easier for managers, and actually changes the job of the manager, because now they're using the system for the pillars. And that's really what it is. That's what the system is an automated system. Or if you can use an automated platform like ZIZO to engineer the system the way it's designed to work. So yes, it's a little bit harder, but it's not impossible. You can still do it regardless of where they're working. Good question.
We have one
Any
other
other-
question. How often should you evaluate if your system is working?
Well, I always say the results will tell you is your number 1 flag, right? So if you're seeing a spike in attrition, then something's off, something's broken. You should definitely evaluate it immediately. If you're seeing a substantial drop in attrition and a rise in retention and employee satisfaction, you know you're doing everything correct. Keep doing what you're doing. If it's somewhere in the middle, I would say evaluate it quarterly. And the best way to do it is to monitor your new hires' experiences, to talk to your people, talk to your managers, review the coaching notes. What are your coaches saying to your new hires or to their employees? Is it primarily corrective? Or is it very well balanced? Or is it heavily weighted towards recognition, which is what we recommend, especially early. Help them build their identity that this is a place where they could thrive and succeed, as opposed to this is a difficult place to work and you're invisible. So I would say, again, keep your finger on the pulse, measure and track your attrition, and any spike will show you that it's time to review. Good question. Any other questions, Olivia?
Those are all the questions we have so far.
Okay. Well, we encourage you all. I mean, if you're in the chat here, ask any questions. If not, I do want to say, go to the engagementarchitecture.com. Olivia, please put that in the chat so they all have the link. It has a ton of resources. A lot of the audits are in the tools at the site. You have the ability to download the executive summary, to register for early access. It's a pretty fun site. We're really proud of it, and we're excited to launch the book so that way everybody can get a copy in their hands. And again, there's a link to get your diagnostic done with us. So you can schedule a 30-minute demo with us. We'll be more diagnostic and discovery. We'll learn more about you, and we'll help deliver to you your score and see what you need to focus on. Okay, if there's no more questions, we are
We've actually got 2 more questions.
Oh, beautiful.
The first one, for the leaders on the call who want proof before they commit, how do you recommend they actually measure a pillar moving week to week?
Let me see that. How do they want proof that we're using? Can you read that one more time?
For the leaders on the call who want proof before they commit, how do you recommend they actually measure a pillar moving week to week?
Well, before they commit to the system of engineering this requires this requires a commitment to be consistent. If you're going to design something and you're going to test it for a day or two, I'll tell you right now, it's going to fail. There needs to be a commitment from both the executive leadership all the way down. It's not something that executives decide and then delegate and then walk away from. This requires a full commitment to monitor it for weeks, if not months, and to make sure that they're measuring, all of the pillars, on a regular basis, especially early on. If you're building your own system to do this, you're going to be hands-on anyways. This isn't something that is turnkey. I have the blueprint, but you have to engineer it and design it into your model. It's agnostic. It works in any operation, especially repeatable task operations. But you have to sit there and be very intentional with what you're doing. So it's not for the faint of heart who are like, let me dip my toes in. And it's not necessarily let me jump all the way into the deep end either. Working with our company at ZIZO, we will help walk you through it and understand it before making a commitment. And then once committed, we'll support you through that process to embed it into your operations and then support it all the way through. But after it's been implemented, there's an ROI calculation that you'll see within the platform to see whether or not it's working. But you'll feel it. If you're on the floor and you have a finger on the pulse, you can feel it. It's not going to be invisible. You'll be able to sense it immediately. What's the next question?
Should supervisors be measured by the level of engagement this process lays out?
I would say so, yes. If implemented correctly. I mean, this is going to take legacy / traditional mindset thinking, management, and all of the above, and change it to really focus in on the positive reinforcement. It's not necessarily shifting away from corrective, but trying to balance that out. Your job right now, or the purpose, the primary purpose is, especially for the ones training new hires, is to give people a reason to stay. And you don't do that by telling them that what they're doing wrong every single day, but then when they do something right, waiting until the end of the month. So yes, measuring supervisors on how effectively and consistently they're executing on these 5 pillars. I think the progressive architecture is not a supervisor task. That is something that's done by executive level to decide how to build that ramp curve. But everything else, once it's implemented, the execution of it should be fairly standardized. And I believe that supervisors should be measured on that as well. And again, back to ZIZO, we do have that measurement in there so you can see. It's almost impossible not to do because the system does it on behalf of your supervisors, but you shift your supervisor's role slightly then to complement the system as opposed to the system complementing. I'm sorry, the platform complementing the supervisor. It's the supervisor complementing the platform. Hopefully that answered the question. If there's any follow-up questions, please put them in the chat. Olivia, do we have any other questions?
Nope, I think that was it.
Okay, wonderful. Great questions. I appreciate everybody joining. We have 3 episodes done. You can now name the 5 design variables that determine whether your system keeps people or loses them. I encourage you to run the scorecard, find the weakest pillar, and in episode 4, I'll show you how to engineer the fix. So the registration link is going to be in the chat. Until next time, thank you all, and have a wonderful day.